Hi, you're listening to Light Lounge with Dimitri K, broadcasted from the city beautiful Orlando, Florida. The music industry is a slowly sinking ship beset by complexity. I'm reading a few excerpts from that article. It's written by McKeegan Voice. To briefly consider the complexity, we need to look at the origins of copyright way back in the 15th century with the invention of the printing press. It was the first time original works could be copied at relative scale, and it introduced a perilous question: what are the rights attached to these copies, and what does that mean for the creators of the original work? As a general rule, every song has two distinct pieces of copyright, one for the composition and one for the recording. Both pieces have two primary stakeholders. For the composition, it's the composer and the publisher, and for the recording, it's the artist-performer and the record label. Well, as we see up to this point, the things are pretty straightforward, but when we consider that the World Intellectual Property Organization acknowledges 193 different jurisdictions and consequently 193 different sets of music rights and regulations, the things are looking not that bright. In 2008, a group of anonymous technologists, philosophers and visionaries started a revolution for more open internet. But let us see what's happening afterwards. Music innovation only start innovative until they start to touch rights and licensing. In 2015, Hypertrack hosted an interview between Quincy Jones and Kendrick Lamar, luminaries representing two different epochs of music. The whole conversation is worth watching, but Jones's assertions that the last thing to leave this planet will be water and music is particularly resonant. And now let's focus on the music resonance that comes with our guests tonight.
Whoa, whoa, yeah.
On May 26, guitarist and composer Greg Chako releases a couple of videos and a new album, A Place for Bass, featuring bassist Mason Dougherty. Welcome to Light Lounge with Dimitri K. Greg.
That's right, Dimitri, and thanks so much for having me today.
You're welcome, Greg. From your album A Place for Bass, let's start with the first tune called As a Button. In your album, you have chosen Mason Dougherty, a talented young bassist, not only as accompanist, but in your composition you put the bass on top. Why not piano or voice?
Well, because it was something I'd never done before. I recorded duets with piano and voice already, but I'd never written a whole album of material specifically for the bass, even though guitar-bass duos are the most common format for gigs. And in the time period leading up to and during the COVID lockdowns, I did write a series of albums with a thematic focus, for example, guitar and organ, or music for two guitars and rhythm section. And of course, the album that we're talking about today, A Place for Bass. When I finished writing the songs for this record, I felt like it was some of my best work, and I'm at once proud and approving of the fact that the bass, an instrument normally associated with accompaniment in the background, is, in this case, functioning in a lead role.
I see the COVID was bad enough, but gave you time to focus on composition approach as well. And here it is, a bass-driven album. We're listening to First Bass. In some of your interviews, we can see that you think of yourself more as a composer as opposed to a guitarist. Where do you find the balance?
I've always composed, but the focus on composing as opposed to merely playing the guitar occurred when I lived in Singapore around 1995 through 2003, when I led a trio gig 6 nights a week for literally years. And on my initial recordings there, live at Raffles and Sudden Impact, there were a few original songs. Well, two things happened simultaneously then. Number one is that the initial recordings of those original songs gave me more confidence to compose more. And number two is that I'd been playing in a trio context for a while, and I began hearing other sounds in my head, sounds requiring a larger ensemble with different instruments. And that's when I began writing more in earnest. It's not a question of balancing my playing and composing, especially then, because I was working as a player more than 6 nights a week, but more about just following my inner inspiration to express myself through the music.
And from what we're listening to, I can say the expression works well, not only for you, but for the listeners too.
Of course, in America, where work as a jazz player is harder to come by, composing enables me to feel productive, forward-thinking, and valid as an artist. And particularly during the COVID lockdowns, writing was all performers like me could do because all the bars and restaurants were closed. But the fact remains, I want to play and compose as much as I can. The more the merrier.
And we're listening to Bass Up Front. In your album, A Place for Bass, The listeners can hear a variety of jazz flavors, waltz, blues, contemporary, some inspired by Bach and Brazilian music. Tell us something about your recording process. Are you going in the studio only with the idea and then improvising while recording, or are all scores written in advance?
All the songs are composed in advance, except for the improvisatory sections. So I compose the song's melody and arrangement, then I get together with the players and rehearse those parts. And then in each song there are sections during which the players improvise on the spot. Furthermore, when I know I'm writing material for an album to be recorded, I compose with purpose. That is, I know I want a variety of time, feels, and styles for the listener. I don't want all the songs to sound the same. And for A Place for Bass, I made sure that there was at least one ballad, at least one blues, at least one 3/4 time, one Brazilian fill, etc. And I think all my albums are like that, fairly varied in style. And it's a deliberate choice on my part. In the words of one of my sidemen, he said, Greg Chako is not a one-trick pony. I hope that's true.
It is so true. The variety is what keeps the mind of the listener open. You don't want to hear an album where after the first tune, presumably great, all the rest are copycat to that one. We're listening to Bass for Brownie. While reading your biography, I see that you have spent long periods living overseas, and for that reason, your work may not have received the attention deserved in the United States. What are your plans for exposing this album, and where the next creative avenue for Greg Chako heading?
The only problem with getting exposure is that it takes money. It's far more costly for me to get professional advertising and promotion for an album than it is to actually make it. But if you spend all of your money on the recording itself and none on advertising, then it's likely that no one will ever hear your work because they won't even know about it. You asked earlier about how do I balance my playing skills with my composing chops. Well, what really takes more time than either of those is the answer to your question here. The majority of my time is spent on social media, sending emails, making phone calls, etc., all to bring greater exposure to my art. Last year, I signed to a label for the first time in my life. It's a jazz sub-label of Mint 400 Records called Raining Music. Neil Sabatino, the head of the label, has helped to bring me into the 21st century, and I owe much of my most recent success to him and the label. It's very, very difficult to do a good job all by yourself. We all need help, and we need friends, we need fans, and you're helping with this interview, Dimitri, to help me gain exposure, so thank you.
You're welcome, Greg. One doesn't go in New York or Los Angeles to start writing music. One goes over there to start promoting. I wish you luck with Paul Sabatino and your new Raining Music label, and believe that after our interview from our variety of radio stations around the world, you're going to have more fans following your career. And we're listening to Back to Bass. And now, after listening to this fabulous guitar, bass driven album, and after knowing so much more about the creative vision of guitarist and composer Greg Chako from the listeners of Light Lounge with Dimitri K, let's wish him success with A Place for Bass, and also ask Greg where the listeners could purchase his album.
I have physical copies for sale now, and anybody can get anything they may want from me directly, but the official label release of this album occurs on May 26 from 12 a.m. May 26th, the album will be streaming worldwide on all streaming services. But having said that, the best place to hear or buy my work now or in the future is from my Bandcamp site, because Bandcamp tends to give the artists a higher percentage of those sales. So just look up Greg Chako on Bandcamp. You can also go to my website, gregchako.com, or you can send me an email or give me a call. I'm waiting for your calls. I'm accessible, and I'd like to talk to you.
And for the end of the interview, let's listen to Bass in Street Blues, Greg Chako, from the album A Place for Bass. Life is better than listening to a commercial radio station playing endlessly a few resembling songs. If you feel that way, you came at the right place. Light Lounge with Dimitri K plays the best award winners and independent artists around the world.
Hi, this is David Lanz. I'm here with Kristin Amarie. Here's a cut from our latest album, Lettre d'Amore, Letters of Love. You're listening to The Light Lounge with Dimitri K. Hi, I'm David Lanz. I'm here with Kristin Amarie, and that was a cut from our latest album, Lettera d'Amore, Letters of Love. You're listening to The Light Lounge, right here with Dimitri K.
Hi, this is Romain Collin, and you're listening to Light Lounge with Dimitri K. Thanks for tuning in. It's a real pleasure to be part of the show today. I wrote Tiny Lights as a celebration of the unique life force that is in each and every one of us. I believe there is no dream too big or too small to pursue in existence, and that's really what Tiny Lights is all about. It's a pretty unique project in that I am playing both piano with my hands and synth bass with my feet. You're also going to be listening to Obed Calvert playing acoustic and electronic drums, and Matthew Stevens playing electric guitar. Hope you guys enjoy. I'd love to see you in a town near you when we get on the road. Thanks, Dimitri, for having us. Enjoy the show.
Hi, this is Mark Barnes, and I invite you to take a walk along the musical path with me and my award-winning 11th studio album, The Path. This album combines 13 emotional and rich melodies, which are guaranteed to take you on a personal journey down your path to determine where that destination lies. Enjoy!
Hello, this is Sophia Agranovich, and you're listening to The Light Lounge with Dimitri K. I am very happy to perform Scherzo in B-flat minor by the poet of the piano and one of the most beloved and influential composers of all time, Frédéric Chopin. This scherzo is full of intense drama, haunting mystery, captivating beauty, lyricism, and romantic passion.
You're listening to Light Lounge with Dimitri K. It's time to say goodbye. And remember, hesitation is temporary, music lasts forever. Most of the artists you heard on this show are independent artists. And if you like some of them, you can Google the name and find them on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, and the rest of the digital media, and that would be a great support for them. For any comments, suggestions, and feedback, please email me at kopublishing@gmail.com. I'm Dimitri K, broadcasting from the city beautiful Orlando, Florida.